Hi guys, good morning. I wanted to come on here to talk about the video I shared last night on stories about the expose of the carnivores sharing that the carnivore diet is the best diet, is the diet evolved on, and so on and so forth. And in that expose, the comment was there's actually not one single diet that can promote health because people can thrive on many other diets. And I think the common denominator is to have a whole food diet, which means it's not processed, right? That will help you thrive. The other common denominator is that diets that are actually very healthy for us are filled with fiber, which come from plant matter, which come from fruit and vegetables. Now, of course, when we talk about this, and I am personally vegan, not only whole food plant-based, I will say there are two aspects to my choice. One, fiber has changed my life. I used to have chronic IBS and constipation because of antibiotic use or abuse, I should say, growing up. Because my parents just didn't know better. This was the 80s, and the doctors were like, she's got the flu, give her antibiotics for her throat infection. So you just didn't have a choice as a child. That was, what was prescribed, and that's what you did. But I definitely suffered the consequences of all that, plus eating disorders and many other things. So I'm in my 40s now. I'm thriving, and I've been on a plant-based diet I've been on a vegan diet for 11 years. In 2013, I decided that I was going to try this approach to actually lower my glucose and my cholesterol because it was too high when I went to check it. And I really loved it. I feel like it's not a stressful thing to do. I was actually eating a whole food plant-based diet. So I always cooked, I always prepared food. So that was not a problem, not a challenge. But of course I did stray a little bit away from 2016 onwards. I went through a period of heavy stress. And one of the things that resulted from that was actually me compensating my emotional gaps with food that was a little bit more tasty. I was just going back to old habits of delving into processed foods that were easy, like pasta and, processed like the cheeses. I went through a phase of cheese sandwiches. Don't ask me why. I never even had that when I was on non-plant-based diet. I just started buying BioLife and have it in toast and all the time. So that was my diet. And I actually gave myself type 2 diabetes on top of adrenal fatigue, and it was all correlated. Of course, when your adrenals are not working well, your glucose management will be poor. But I didn't know better, and I was also I didn't know better because I didn't have the capacity to deal with it. So even though I was already a health professional, I just didn't care for myself. And this is actually what we see with a lot of doctors, with a lot of health professionals. They learn something, they want to teach it, but they don't live it. And this is something that I really stand against, because I believe that we need to stand as examples when we're teaching something. Now, back to the conversation about a whole food vegan diet. I am fully vegan, and I never actually strayed away from that, even when I was getting sick. And the truth is, I find that it serves my emotional and spiritual well-being better too. So of course, I understand and I see the science. A Mediterranean diet, which has a little bit of fish here and there, a little bit of meat here and there, can be equally as diet, because actually the bulk of that diet is still beans, grains, vegetables, and fruit, okay, and nuts and seeds. So it's not just the craziness of having a carnivore, full on dairy, full on meat at all. But on a conscious level, knowing what's happening on the planet, if you love animals, if you love dogs and you have compassion for them, think about the animals as well, right? And even if you are not ready to go fully plant-based, fully vegan, at least try to take away as much as possible, because even that shift has a positive impact. I really have a problem with the staunch belief that we have to have meat every day, otherwise we're going to be protein deficient. That's bullshit. It's been proven that it's bullshit. And I can't even believe that in 2024, we're still having this stupid conversation when the science is clear. And I'm not talking about epidemiological studies. I am talking about controlled studies where people have been put in two different categories, and you see that people are thriving on a whole food plant-based diet. So even the Blue Zones is an epidemiological study, and that's a good guidance. I'm not taking away the validity, Well, what I'm saying is that in a controlled study where you have some people having a fully plant-based diet versus not, you see the benefits of a fully plant-based diet. So let's not just go into this craziness that you have to have animals, otherwise you're not going to be healthy. That's not true. But equally, yes, you can be healthy if you have some animal products and you have them mindfully. So it's really important. The other question that always comes up for me is adding supplements. For me, this is a very complex subject in a way, complex and easy at the same time. The complexity of it comes from studying as a naturopath and detoxifying the body. When we're talking about the body thriving on its own without having to add supplements, technically, yes, we should be getting everything we need from our food. But also, practically, our food is not what it used to be. Our soil, as much as we want to eat organic and biodynamic, and we want to buy from the best growers, our soils are suffering the impact of the planet being under a lot of stress. So I feel that plants, although grown in an organic way, will have more nutrients, and that's proven actually. They will not possibly give you everything. Plus, there is something to consider, which a lot of people don't think about when we talk about the subject, is the ability of the microbiome of a person to really break down the food, or the body of the person to break down the food, and the microbiome to do its jobs, you know, in a large intestine. Then once you have taken the nutrients in the small intestine, in a large intestine, your microbiome is going to create short chain fatty acids from the rest of the food, like from the fiber, which they thrive on. But a lot of people don't have a diversity that is big enough to do a lot of the jobs that we need to do in our colon. So it is a complex subject because of that. So I believe this. I believe that having deficiencies can cause disease, especially when we talk about mitochondrial nutrients, because our mitochondria is responsible for energy creation and balancing out so many things within the cell, that I feel that we need to give it what it needs. And what it needs is an array of nutrients, especially water-soluble nutrients. And so we're thinking about the B vitamins, which are very, very important. So B12 is a key, if you are vegan especially, a key supplement to have. I really believe it, whether you want to have it or not. I know especially in the raw community, there is this belief that, well, we make B12 in a large intestine, which is absolutely true. But the large intestine is not where you actually absorb the nutrients. You do that in the small intestine, and things don't travel upwards, because if they did, we'd be in trouble. So that's the conundrum. Do you get enough if you do it in the large intestine? Quite possibly not. So why being safe is better than sorry, because B12 deficiency can have a large amount of issues, not just with the nervous system, but also with cardiovascular, because it can trigger homocysteine going up, which actually is related to having strokes. So we need to think about all these things, okay? Because if we want to be healthy, we need to think about holistic picture. The other nutrients I think we should probably have and add as a supplement is EPA and DHA, which you can find from algae. So it's very clean as well. Now they grow it in tanks. It's not even from the ocean. And so that doesn't really expose you to heavy metals, for example. But the reason is sometimes some people don't convert ALA into these two amino acids, or fatty acids, sorry. So you want to make sure that you actually are supplementing, which is really good for the brain. There were some concerns about supplementing those things and cancer, but they weren't testing actually the DHA and EPA from the algae, but from fish. So there might be a difference. But also, again, is the risk of getting deficiencies and having like problems like dementia down the line, you know, which one is worse, right? And I think that from algae, because the plant, I think is pretty safe. The other that I would say is really important is iodine, and this is it's across the spectrum, whether you're eating animal products or not, because the truth is a lot of people don't consume enough iodine, and our thyroid are probably one of the things that gets into trouble quite a lot. Now that has got to do with kidneys, adrenals, and pituitary gland, as well as in your whole endocrine system, and of course the parathyroid is included in that. And so a cleanse can help, and really going back to basics to regenerate. But a lot of people don't know that, and the deficiency of iodine can trigger bigger issues, which we can avoid if we actually take care of it. So iodine is something that I would have. As we get older, you can maybe think about supplementing some magnesium, especially as your hormones are shifting and you maybe struggle to sleep. There are things that we can look at. And in the back there, you see Dr. B's 38 Terra, which is a prebiotic. So it's fiber, it's polyphenols and resistant starch, which feeds the microbiome. It helps the microbiome repopulate with different strains. You can take a probiotic as well, and I support and endorse Optibac, as you guys know, but it's not available everywhere. Well, it's available everywhere, but sometimes you have to unfortunately import it, and that creates a bit of a cost issue with customs. Although, like even in Portugal now, we do have it at Corte Inglés, so if you go there, they will have Optibac. It's a little more pricey than the UK, unfortunately, like most of the supplements that I actually like taking, like Better You. So if you're traveling to the UK, stock up. But it's something that I would say it can help. But again, work with a professional, understand your health, and then do it. But going back to the diet, having a diet that is rich in fiber also helps your microbiome, and the microbiome is responsible for many things, so you want to keep the gut healthy. We talked about this very extensively on the weekend on my inner circle, because the digestive system is so fascinating, and it was such a long lesson because obviously we had to really drill into things, but I found it very, very impactful to truly teach people how important fiber is, because it goes really almost unnoticed, and it is not a fix-all. There are many things we have to do. Sometimes we have to do elimination diets. Sometimes we have to understand if there is a sensitivity to something like a delayed food allergy. We have to understand all these things are possible, and then restructure and heal the gut so that you can actually digest the food. Some of the reports from the carnivores, when they say that they feel better when they remove the fiber and they only have a meat-based diet, is this. One is the sorry, something is itching in my nose. One is that they may have microbiome dysbiosis, so they have to rebuild the microbiome. The other thing is that they might have allergies, and by removing these things, that helps, because then they don't have to make an effort to digest everything. The problem is the long term, there is a big issue, so they have to start introducing fiber slowly to create the ability for the gut to digest that, to work with that. The other thing that could be possible is that they are on a very standard Western diet full of junk food, which will mess up your health. So the moment they actually switch to just meat and dairy, even if that's not the best diet for longevity, it's gonna be cleaner than what they were eating before. So yeah, they're gonna lose weight and feel better. You can eat anything aside from junk and feel better. Like, honestly, that's base, right? So those things have to be considered. So I really struggle with this approach that we have online. Again, when I talk about going vegan, I understand the science repercussion. It's not the only way to be healthy. I get it. I have to be honest as a professional. But of course, in my journey as a spiritual being living in this body and having this earthly experience, I am conscious of this. If we have options and we can be healthy with those options and not harm the beautiful animals that are populating this earth when we don't need to. Because remember, we talk about killing bugs through organic farms. Okay, yeah, some things die. A rat would die, and that's horrible. But I am not purposely killing something, make it bleed out, and then eat their flesh. I don't have to do that. And if you don't have to do that, why? Why not choose kindness when you can be healthy by doing that too? So that's my thing. And also, energetically speaking, the moment I stopped consuming animal products, I cannot tell you how much of the anxiety and the feeling of oppression that I had lifted. Is it perfect? Do I never feel anxious? No, I have to work on things every day. Again, human experience. But a lot of those feelings were certainly not mine. And energetically, that's an important thing. So even to become a better version of ourselves, maybe we can do that by even changing our food. Certainly we can do that by even changing our food. So of course, nutrition is a complex science because we are so beautifully designed and there are so many intricate things happening. So, you know, even if I love fruit, do I think a fruitarian diet is the only way to go? Actually, no, I don't think that just eating fruit is enough, personally. There are certain things that you will find in vegetables that are not in fruit, and I would want people to actually consume both if they are on a plant-based diet. And even if your intake is highly fruit, that's okay, but just have some veg because you get benefits from it. And equally, raw versus cooked. Is raw the only way to go? No, it's not. You can have some cooked food on a vegan diet and thrive. I personally find that 95% raw keeps me vital and energetic. And when I do have some cooked food, I do feel more tired. I've also noticed grains don't work for me anymore since I started in my 40s and I went through that stage of like really hitting perimenopause. But I reversed all the symptoms because I'm looking after myself now, but I threw myself into this hormonal imbalance which gave me all these symptoms of perimenopause. And just by changing that approach, by actually removing the grains, so having some quinoa, of course, and buckwheat, but still mindful about those things, it made a difference. So you have to learn how to navigate the array of choices that you have. I feel like, again, when we become too dogmatic, too strict, and we don't listen to our bodies, it can actually create problems. And when we look at science, we have to like really look at science. But equally, if we want to be compassionate beings and we can have a choice of not consuming animal products at all, not contributing to the cruelty that goes into that, then we should do it. Which is also why I created Elevate Plant-Based Market, which happens once a month here in Braga. And I didn't want to just make it vegan as a stand, but actually say, you know, the approach is let's inspire people to go towards plants the best they can, because eventually they will feel better. They will actually adopt a much more plant-based diet, and they might even go vegan, but they also click on their impact on animals and the planet. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because we're not pushing, we're not making them feel guilty if they don't have, you know, this lifestyle which we think is holy. And quite honestly, guys, if you're vegan, my message to you is this: don't just be compassionate to animals and forget that human beings also need compassion, because that's something that really I see happening, like the gaslighting, the fighting, the attacking. How do you want to be a better human being if you're doing that even to other human beings? I know it's stressful, and I know it's so like it angers me when I see someone not giving a shit about animals and not thinking that, you know, well, you're eating flesh and what do you think that comes from? It does upset me on a visceral level, because I'm like, come on, you should be better than that. But I also learned through my profession that gaslighting people is a very negative emotion that actually makes them not receptive at all to what you're saying. If we are at least talking to them in a way that is kind and allowing them to explore the options and then make better choices. To me, even if one person says, I'm gonna have meat once a week because I really don't want to give it up, but it's once a week versus 7, I'm gonna be happy that they do that, because that's a massive, massive impact and change. There are some people that are really not ready even to remove it once a day, and you know, then I'm like, okay. But actually, even that, patience, really patience, because people will get it eventually, I hope. So I wanted to share this. I wanted to share this because I received a comment that agreed with what the video was saying, and I wanted to actually give my extra opinion, which is, yes, that video was correct. Any diet that is wholesome can be very impactful in a positive way, but if you have a choice to be wholesome and also plant-based, vegan, for the animals and for the planet, please do it. Please do it. Try it. Don't knock it until you try it, and then you can decide. So it's nice to do that. And, you know, don't put people in the box. Like, I hate when people are like, oh, you're vegan. Yeah, it's a lifestyle I chose, but I'm Chantal. I'm not, what, you know, I don't go around like with a V on my face. You know what I mean? All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.